Joe Manchin has a lot of problems with the infrastructure bill, and we've created a government where his opinion for some reason matters outside of West Virginia. So what does he want to ruin? Everything. But first, an issue that's important for me, let's talk about the most powerful part of President Biden's climate agenda, a program to rapidly replace the nation's coal and gas-fired power plants with wind, solar, and nuclear energy. Will likely be dropped from the massive budget bill pending in Congress. And honestly, when I saw that, you probably thought I was mad. No, I was not mad. I was relieved because of course it's gonna be dropped. And I hate the anticipation, wondering how long do we have to wait until they jettison that thing, they throw it overboard. So what is this program? Well, it's a clean electricity program that would reward utilities that switch from burning oil, gas, and coal to using wind, solar, and nuclear energy, and penalize those that don't. It's designed to get 80% of the country's electricity from clean sources by 2030, up from 40% now. That would be huge, that would be massive, obviously. It is a great thing to work towards, not only for climate. By the way, we talk about climate because that's the single most important pressing issue, but we have to remember, pollution is still a massive issue in its own right outside of the pollution of carbon. It kills so many people every single year, and this would do a lot to help fight back against that. Unfortunately, we live in America, not a democracy. So Joe Manchin, who comes of course from coal-rich West Virginia, has told the White House that he strongly opposes the clean electricity program, according to 3 people. As a result, White House staffers are now rewriting the legislation without that climate provision and are trying to cobble together a mix of other policies that could also cut emissions, assuming he doesn't have a problem with those too. So here is the fun thing about the American government, okay, and the world. So we're facing a climate catastrophe. It's gonna be bad no matter what we do. We get to decide what sort of apocalypse do we want? Do we want a mild apocalypse? Do we want Mad Max? Do we want something worse than that? We want to live in Fallout world. So we desperately need to do this. And Joe Manchin gets to just say no. It's enough for him to say no. Joe Manchin, who has made $5.2 million from his own coal company, gets to say no, power providers should not turn away from coal.
Yeah.
The guy who owns a coal company gets to decide whether we keep using coal or not. And as if that owned personal direct financial interest. This is beyond campaign finance. This is literally he gets the money, not for his campaign,
ownership,
not for events. He gets to buy stuff with it. He also got $400,000 from energy companies and GOP donors in just the 3rd quarter alone. Almost $500,000 in 1 quarter explicitly to kill provisions like this. So we've said, if you personally benefit, if you politically benefit, you can say screw you to everyone in the country. Indeed, in a very real way, everyone in the world, you get to say no and it's fine. And honestly, like great job by, I think this was Salon that did one. I think it's Insider on the second. There's a few that are talking about this. The vast majority of this reporting from places like the New York Times are just like, well, he has an opposition to it. Not he's corrupt as F and we allow it for some reason. It bothers me so much, Viviana. I can't believe that we allow this.
He's benefiting from the opposition to it. I think it was the Insider photo. I don't know if you guys can throw it up, but he looks so sneaky in that photo. He looks so sneaky. But it's obvious. I mean, we all see it, and we know that this is how dirty politics. There he is, sneaky. I got $400,000, but don't stop burning coal. Yeah, we love it. This is the same argument that the whalers who used to make money selling oil from the whale blubber. We can't stop. We're gonna lose our careers and our livelihoods. Well, we have to evolve, people. We cannot let this old curmudgeon make a decision. He's gonna be dead before he has to drink his own filtered urine like the rest of us. So it's not fair. You don't get to make this decision. You represent a whole state, and because of your opposition to this infrastructure bill, you represent the whole entire country, and you're gonna stop us from making progress. It's bad enough we had pulled out of the Paris Accord. Now, what is even the point? We're trying in vain.
Yeah, and it's gonna be terrible for the world. It's gonna be terrible for us. It's gonna be terrible specifically for West Virginia, by the way, which we'll get into. But I do understand that this opposition is bipartisan. Shelley Moore Capito, the other senator from West Virginia, who's a Republican, said she was, quote, vehemently opposed to the clean electricity program because it's, quote, designed to ultimately eliminate coal and natural gas from our electricity mix and would be absolutely devastating for my state. So you can, from her point of view, never get clean electricity.
Sorry, Shelley, evolve or die. We have to evolve. That's why I'm making the whalers. There were people who were selling whale blubber, and that's how the oil lamps and everything. Yeah. And they had to, we couldn't continue that as a form of our fuel. And this is the same exact situation. This is Napster, but with, coal. Like you got to evolve. Like you got to figure out a new way to make. Yeah.
Exactly. No, you're right. And so you can never move away from it because it'll be devastating for my state. Here's the thing. There is gonna be devastation for a state, but it's not the devastation that she thinks of. She's talking about, well, then we won't dig up the coal and that'll be bad economically, which by the way, let me be very clear, and maybe this is controversial. Let's say it was devastating to West Virginia in the short term. Okay.
No, but you know what will be devastating?
Not
having a plan to get away from coal. That's what's going to devastate any sort of coal miner. But not having a plan for them to transition into other jobs. That needs to happen. No, that's the devastation.
I want to clarify. I mean, if it literally was just bad in the short term economically for one small state, I value coastal cities more. I value us not all dying, baking in the summer more. But as you point out, it's not devastating. They're gonna transition them away. And by the way, it can only be so devastating because I'm gonna ask the audience a question right now. We talk a lot about coal and the coal mine, we gotta just stick with coal. How many coal jobs are there in America? Like the whole country.
Yeah. Do you have
I wanna see some tweets.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wanna see some comments.
Let me Google.
So there were not many back at the beginning of the Trump administration. So it's 2017, we'd already been moving down. Actually, some people are accurate. Some are way too high, but some are accurate. It was like close to 100,000 jobs at the beginning of the Trump administration.
What? Well, it says there's 50,000 miners.
It's 40,000 now. The most recent numbers, 40,000.
They all got black lung. Talk about dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah, but think about that. Obviously, those 40,000 need help, and they'll get it in this bill, retraining and all that stuff. But it's 40,000 people. Yeah. We are a country of hundreds of millions of people. 40,000 is like, how many national employees does Carl's Jr. have? Like we don't grind our government to a halt for Wendy's. Why are we freaking out over the 40,000? Let's help them. Help them get a job that won't break their back, get them black lung and all that.
If you had your pockets lined with $400,000, you might be real protective of their jobs, John.
That's true. Exactly. This has nothing to do with the employees. This has to do with the coal companies and directly Manchin's, but the others.
And the other views that Manchin has is in direct opposition to caring about these families that are coal miners because he doesn't want to. I mean, it's like the hypocrisy is just in your face.
Yeah, 100%. So look, we're gonna skip past a little bit of this for time, but we're gonna be devastated, and we have this one opportunity finally to do something, and we're apparently not gonna do it because we allow people like Manchin. Like Joe Biden is not gonna give a speech where he points out how corrupt Joe Manchin is to try to put pressure on him. He's just not. He's not gonna give a primetime address to the people of West Virginia and explain what we're explaining here and what I'm about to, because I said before it is gonna be devastating, but not the way that they're lying. You know how it's gonna be devastating? New York Times, which doesn't identify the corruption nearly as much, did have good reporting on this. Did you know that West Virginia is actually seriously at risk of flooding? And you might think, well, wait, I thought like Florida and like places like that were at risk of flooding. Well, it's not just the coastline that are issues of flooding. So new data shows that West Virginia people living there stand to suffer disproportionately as climate change intensifies. Unlike those in other flood-exposed states, most residents in mountainous West Virginia have little room to relocate from waterways that increasingly threaten their safety, and they are flooding much more common. Now, you've heard of like 100-year storms and 1,000-year storms that are supposed to be rare, but now they happen like every year. Yeah. Did you know that West Virginia is in almost every category of infrastructure the most at risk in the entire country to flooding from those sorts of storms? I wanna show you some of the instances. So 61% of all of their power stations are at risk of flooding during these events.
Jeez.
That's the worst in the country. 46% of the, look, almost half of every road, that's the highest in the country. 57% of fire stations, highest in the country. 50% of police stations, highest in the country. The only two things they're not the highest in, they're tied for highest with Louisiana. That is nearly 40% of their schools and nearly 40% of their commercial properties. So they're gonna be devastated by climate change in all the ways that we know that everyone is, and they're going to flood more. And they've decided, their leadership have decided, no, screw it. We're just gonna make it worse. That's it.
Just so Manchin can get that $400,000 and keep raking in the benefits from his stock portfolio.
Yeah.
Sick. It's sick.
Rich.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Look. If we, I don't know if we can put up the photo again. What does he need an additional $5 million? He made $5 million off of his coal company. Remember, he also makes hundreds of thousands of dollars as a senator, let alone all that stuff. Look at him. What does he need an additional $5 million for?
He could get a chin lift, probably. I mean,
sure,
plastic surgery.
Like maybe like mix it up, like Squid Game, go pink. I don't know, like something. But and they're going to flood. They're going
because it's a game to them. Destroyed. It's a game. They cannot stop. The greed is just disgusting. It takes over their soul. They just want more, more, more. They cannot stop. It's about power. And this whole combative nature that he has right now is about power as well. It's just about him saying, I can do this.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.